Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Maaser Sheni. We're up to Perek Daled Mishnah Tet. Today's Mishnayot should be Leilu Nishmat, Neria ben Tzvedlana Aranbayev and Eliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Menuchatam Began Eden, Amen. The Mishnah today is going to consider whether one who finds a coin must be concerned that it might be a redemption coin of Maaser Sheni and must therefore be used for food in Yerushalayim. The Mishnah says, Kol hamaot hanimtzaim hare elu chulin. All coins that are found are assumed to be unsanctified because most coins are unsanctified. And Varshim explain, most coins in the world are not redemption coins of Maaser Sheni. Any coins that we find are assumed to come from the majority and therefore are unsanctified, like the Halakha tells us. Kol de parish, meruba parish, anything that separates out, we assume is separated from the majority. We assume these coins are not redemption coins of Maaser Sheni. Afilu dinar zav ima kesev ima maot. And this applies even if one found a gold dinar together with one of silver and with copper coins in the same pouch, which might suggest that they are Maaser Sheni coins that are being kept together. And the Mefarshim explain, a person does not usually put gold, silver, and copper coins in the same pouch. So how are we to explain that the fact that these coins were found together? A likely explanation would seem to be that they are Maaser Sheni coins, meaning a person had a large amount of Maaser Sheni produce to redeem, so he redeemed most of it onto the gold dinar. The remainder was too little to fill another gold dinar, so he redeemed it onto silver coins, and the little bit left over was too small to redeem even onto a silver coin, so he redeemed it onto copper coins. He then kept all his Maaser Sheni coins together in the same pouch. But still, the Mishnah teaches us that we do not have to be concerned that this is what happened. And the Mefarshim explain it. Tosfos Yom Tov says, because if they were indeed Maaser Sheni coins, the owner would have put some sort of note in the pouch to indicate they are Maaser Sheni coins. Since no such note is found, we once again can assume that they are not Maaser Sheni coins and they are permitted. Matzah betochan cheres v'chatuv alav maaser. The exception to this rule, the Mishnah says, if one found among them in the pouch a piece of pottery with the word maaser written on it, hareze maaser, then it is assumed these are indeed Maaser Sheni coins. And the Mefarshim explain, even though it's possible that this pottery note was written for a different container of maaser and was put in this pouch by mistake, nevertheless, we assume that they are indeed Maaser Sheni coins. As the Rambam in his commentary explains to us, now Maaser is the shorthand someone would use for Maaser Sheni coins, since no other Maaser would be in the form of coins, so they're going to write Maaser instead of Maaser Sheni. The Mefarshim say, the Mefarshim add another exception to our Mishnah's rule is where coins are found in the streets of Yerushalayim during one of the three festivals, when people flock to Yerushalayim from all over Eretz Yisrael to fulfill the mitzvah of Aliyah L'Regel, which is coming to the Beit HaMikdash, the temple, 3 times a year, with offerings, and they would bring their Maaser Sheni to eat there, the Rav says. So at that time, most of the coins that are found in Yerushalayim are coins of Maaser Sheni. So that would be a reason to suspect, to assume that they are Maaser Sheni coins. Furthermore, the streets of Yerushalayim were swept every day, so any coins lying there from before the festival would already have been swept away. We will discuss this in Masechet Shkalim, chapter 7, Mishnah 2. That is in Rabotai Mishnah Tet. Mishnah Yud now continues. We spoke about a pouch of coins that contain a note on which Maaser is written. The Mishnah is going to discuss now a similar case. If someone finds a container on which the word korban is written, and the Mefarshim explain, the word korban, which literally means sacrifice, usually refers to sacrificial offerings, but it can be used to refer to hekdesh, which are items sanctified for the Beit HaMikdash. Now, if someone finds a container on which the word korban is written, Rabbi Yehuda says that the halakha depends on what the container was made of. If it was made of pottery, then it is assumed to be non-sacred, but its contents are assumed to be sacred. And the Rav explains, earthenware containers are cheap and people do not usually sanctify them for the temple. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says we may assume that the word korban on it was meant to label its contents, not the container itself. But if it was made of metal, which people sometimes sanctify for the temple, then it is assumed to be sacred, but its contents are assumed to be non-sacred. And the Mefarshim explain, the word korban is assumed to identify the container on which it is actually written, rather than the separate contents inside. Therefore, the container is sacred, but the contents are assumed to be like the majority of things which are not sacred. Amrulo, the Chachamim, they argued with Rabbi Yehuda, they said to him, En derech bnei adam liot konsin chulin lekorban. It is not usual for people to place non-sacred items into sacred vessels. Therefore, we must treat both the metal container and its contents as sacred. And Vashim explain the reason that it's not usual for people to place non-sacred items into sacred vessels is because it is forbidden to use sacred items for personal use. That's called me'ilah. Rabbi Yehuda, however, he holds that it might very well be that the owner mistakenly put the non-sacred items into the sacred container. Therefore, the items in the container would have the status of chulin. But like we said, the sages, they disagree. They say we must treat both the metal container and its contents as sacred. However, the Mefarshim tell us in the case of an earthenware container, the Chachamim agree with Rabbi Yehuda that we assume that only the contents are sacred, not the container itself. As the Rav tells us, and the Rav concludes, V'alakha ki Chachamim, the halakha follows the opinion of the sages, that again, they agree with Rabbi Yehuda. If it's a case of an earthenware vessel, we assume only the contents are sacred, not the container itself. But if it's a metal vessel, we treat both the container and its contents as sacred. And Rabotai, that is the end of today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.